My name is Dennis Williams, and I'm in a state of panic. I ran as quickly as possible through the hospital to my wife's room. Entering the room, I notice that her sister is already there. "Steffi," I scream in horror. They somehow mixed it up with a child. "What did they do, dear?" she asks. Even in pain, my wife is the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. The smile that crosses her lips comes from the fact that she loves me very much, and the other part is pure prank. Her sister is smiling too. "I'm sure it's just a mistake," I begin, at which point they both smile even wider. A glance passes between them. But they're clearly confused. "What are they confused about?" she asks. "They're trying to give us two," I say. "They say we're having twins." "Oh no," she says. Her face is a mask of horror. Her sister can't keep her face straight and starts laughing at me. "Well, Super Dad," Steph says, "if you hadn't fainted during childbirth, you would have already known that we were having twins. The doctors already knew, but since we decided not to find out the gender or other details about the baby, only you and I didn't know about it." She waves for me to come closer. "Give me a kiss," she demands. "The birth took so long, Dennis. It feels like days since you kissed me." I kiss her and time stops, as always. Nothing in the world matters when we are together. "But we're not ready for twins," I tell her. "We had everything ready, whether it was a girl or a boy. Our plans were perfect. But now we're in limbo again. We need to rethink everything. What are we going to do?" She grabbed both sides of my face and pulled me towards me again. This kiss lasted longer. Even her sister got excited looking at us. When she let me go, I was left breathless and much less panicked. "Darling," she said, "when I met you again a year ago, I didn't imagine anything like this. I only knew that I really needed you and that we belonged to each other. I just live like. Has to. I know that you are an engineer. You like to have plans and drawings, but I just live every day. As long as we are together, everything will be fine. I saw how you planned everything, including the children's room, and it was wonderful. But darling, sometimes things don't go the way you planned. I love Steph more than anyone in my life. The only people who can come close to her importance are the two little girls in the children's room at the end of the corridor. But when she spoke to me, I seemed to zone out on one phrase she used. She said, "Sometimes things don't go the way you planned." It was almost strangely ironic that less than a year ago another woman had told me exactly the same thing. I remember it like it was just yesterday. It was an early Saturday in July. It was 10 in the morning, and the sun was already high in the sky. Forecasters were calling for another sunny day with temperatures in the mid-90s Fahrenheit. Like most Saturdays, I got up early to trim the hedges, clean the pool, and mow the grass. My wife, Belinda, cleaned the inside of the house and made it beautiful. As soon as I turned off the lawnmower, I heard Belinda scream. "Get out of my house!" she screamed. Then I heard several women's voices laughing. I entered the house through the back door and saw my little blonde, a storm of energy, cursing at my friends. I describe her as a ball because she is really round. Belinda was a cheerleader when we were in college. Now, 10 years later, she's still just as cute, still has the same charms, but the rest of her has changed a little. She was one of the most popular girls in college. We didn't fall in love so much as we were pushed towards each other. She was the prettiest cheerleader, and I was the quarterback. For us to date someone else would be something like blasphemy. Belinda was loud and assertive, but I was shy and thoughtful. Perhaps our characters, although different, complemented each other. Belinda could ouch-out and over-excite anyone she met. She was very confident in herself and always knew that she would get what she wanted. I, on the other hand, didn't talk much and, for a quarterback, had surprisingly little boasting. I wasn't the shooter type of player. Our coach knew that I tended to overthink my actions. I always chose safer options. After 3 straight losses in my first season with a shooting QB, he benched him in my favor, and I never let him down. He always knew what to expect from me, and I always gave him my best. I wasn't noticeable, but I did my job, and we won a lot. My teammates respected me, and we supported each other. There were a few guys I couldn't get along with, but they were very few in my 4 years. After college, Belinda and I continued dating. I got a job designing car parts. Belinda got a job in marketing. She proposed to me exactly a year after graduation. It was a big shock for me then. I really loved her, but there was never a real spark between us. But all my friends looked at me like I was a fool. Boy, cheerleader, big breasts, blonde, hot. Why the hell are you still thinking? A year after the wedding, I was still wondering when that magical moment that they talk about in all the romantic movies would come. Instead, Belinda sat down with me in our home office with a stack of bills. "Dennis," she said, "these are all our bills. Here's the total." She pointed to a number in a cell on the spreadsheet she showed me on our computer. "This is how much you make." She pointed to another cell and another number. I nodded my head as if I understood what she was showing me. Then she looked into my eyes. She had a low-cut outfit on, so all I really saw was her breasts. "Dennis, honey, I hate my damn job, so I have a question for you," she said, leaning in even more. "Why the hell do I have to work?" She told me a lot of things then, such as how her boss constantly stares at her breasts and how all the women at her work are jealous of her and no one there respects her. So I told her that if she wanted to quit, that was fine with me. However, a few weeks later, I learned that my loving wife had deceived me. Her boss wasn't the only one staring at her breasts. Most of the men there did it because her blouses were so revealing. Some men were just waiting for her breasts to fall out. Women didn't respect her not only because of her blouses, but also because she didn't do any work. And finally, I found out that the day before Belinda asked me if she could quit, she had already called her boss a cheap son of a bitch and quit because he asked her to stop wearing blouses like that. On that particular Saturday afternoon, 2 of my friends were in the house when Belinda walked in with a few of her friends. This wasn't unusual because we were still hanging out with a lot of the same people we'd known since college. Belinda saw Danny Tillman and Ray Foster sitting at our kitchen table with beers and lost her temper. She looked at me as I ran inside. "Dennis, I just cleaned up," she screamed. "I don't need your dirty, smelly friends ruining the house before my guests arrive." "Don't worry, honey," I said. "We were just going to have fun by the pool. Maybe work on my car. I want to replace the stock spark plugs with the iridium ones I got from American Muscle and then return the engine." "Oh, no," she interrupted. "Nothing like that will happen today. I invited some friends I haven't seen since we left college. We need to discuss our final plans for our 10-year reunion this summer. And I don't want a bunch of stinking beer-drinking Neanderthals here. I don't care where you will go or what you will do, but do it somewhere else." "Let's go to Hooters," Ray suggested. "There." "No," said Belinda. "No clubs." "But Hooters is not that kind of club," Ray began. He fell silent as she stared at him. "Let's go bowling," Danny suggested. "We're not good at golf anyway, so." "Golf sounds good," Belinda said. "Go play golf. Ride in those little carts and hit some balls." So I showered, changed into golf-appropriate clothes, and off we went. An hour later, we were already at the golf club. As usual, we played great. We made up the rules ourselves. We just rolled around the field, hitting balls. Most of the time our balls didn't even get close to the holes, but that didn't bother us. If you lost sight of the ball or simply didn't want to pick it up, you took out a new one and started from the place where you were comfortable. I had already lost 8 balls for the day, and we were only on the 3rd hole. We called our game, "I Don't Care About Golf." We approached 4 players, 2 of whom were women. At first, we only saw them from behind. It seemed like it was some kind of date between the 2 of them. One of the men started to serve, and Danny immediately started laughing at his clothes, how tight his pants were, and how exaggerated he was moving as he swung at the ball. When the man hit the ball and it spun off the tee, Danny said loudly, "Wow, did you see that? I told you, he hits just like Arnold." The man turned around and smiled at us as we rested on the golf cart, waiting for them to clear the road. "You're in trouble now," Ray said. "This guy might want to date you." "Why?" Danny asked. "Well, you said his swing was like Arnold Palmer," Ray said. "No, I didn't say that," Danny countered. "His punch is all ruined. I was talking about Arnold Ziffel, the pig from the Green Mile." We all started laughing and then fell silent as the four of us looked at us. I got chills when they turned to us. One of the women was the next to strike. When she leaned towards the ball, all my blood rushed to one place. Her pants were so tight that they outlined every curve of her ass, and it was amazing. I almost lost it when she turned and looked over her shoulder at me. She nodded her head, and her long red curls parted to reveal her bright green eyes. "Wow," Danny and Ray said at the same time. It was cool when she winked and whispered, "Hi, Dennis." They patted me on the back. Another guy from the four of them stood up and approached us. "Do you want to pass?" he asked. "We don't want to keep you." "No," said Ray. "We'll be fine. We'll just sit here and admire the view. Plus, we'll probably adjust our speed to stay behind you." I don't like the idea of a group of guys spending all day looking at my wife, the guy said. As soon as he said this, the red-haired woman approached us. "Is your wife here, Clark?" she asked. "I didn't even know you were married." She walked past him and came up to me. "Hi, Dennis," she beamed. Several reactions occurred simultaneously. Danny and Ray sat on the golf cart, watching the action as if it were an episode of a reality show. Clark was getting angrier by the second, and I felt like a deer caught in the headlights of an approaching car. She kept coming closer, and I couldn't move. She came up to me and hugged me and kissed me. I got lost in her touch and smell. The little voice in my head that was telling me to reason and reminding me that I was married was completely silenced. The fact that I was hugging each other on a public golf course didn't seem important to me either. When I caught my breath, she smiled at me and nothing else mattered. "You have no idea who I am, right?" she asked. I shook my head. "Stephanie Calhoun," Danny said behind me. "Remember, during her senior year of college, she was a freshman. You started tutoring her in math. Everyone thought it was cute. She had a crush on you until Belinda made you stop. Belinda didn't think it was cute." Then I remembered. She also had bright red hair then, only shorter. She also had thick glasses and braces. She has also become fuller over the years. But I remembered her. I was attracted to her even then. I think Belinda felt it. It was not Stephanie's physical appearance that attracted me, but her kind, gentle nature and the fact that I felt that she loved me as much as I loved her. "I remember her," Stephanie said. "Belinda was your evil friend at the time, wasn't she?" I nodded silently. "She wasn't very nice." "What happened to her?" she asked. "Oh, she's changed a lot," Ray laughed. "Yes," Danny said. "It's a complete transformation. They got married, and now she's his evil wife." "Oh," Stephanie said. She hugged me again and started kissing me. "Stephanie, what are you doing?" Clark shouted. "We." Stephanie turned to him and glared. "What are we?" she asked coldly. "We're co-workers, Clark. That's all. I invited you to play golf with Ted, Julie, and me. You agreed. I came here to play golf, nothing more. There's nothing between us, and although you tried to pretend that it was like a date, it was never a date." "But didn't you hear what they said? The guy is married," he complained. "And what is this?" Stephanie snorted, shrugging. "What does it mean?" Clark asked angrily. "It means so what?" Stephanie replied sharply. "I lost him once, and I've regretted it for the last 10 years. It won't happen again." "Julie, talk some sense into her," Clark wailed. "Clark, I've known her for 3 years. When she makes a decision, she doesn't change it. This guy ruined her marriage, you idiot. You're just upset because you thought he'd get what you wanted. Maybe right here, on the golf course. I was stunned. Stephanie held my hand. I think you five should keep playing golf, Stephanie said. Dennis and I should go to the clubhouse, eat and talk. Danny, the voice of reason, entered the conversation. Oh, no, he said. I won't leave him alone with you. Me too, Ray said. Okay, fine, you two can come with us, Stephanie said. Julie, I'll see you on Monday at your work. I'll only talk to you from now on. Clark is clearly too upset to take care of my business. But, Julie began. How? Don't worry, Dennis will make sure I get to my hotel, Stephanie said. I'll call you tonight if he needs to get home early so we can go to a show or something. We headed to the golf cart and the four of us headed towards the clubhouse. Danny and Ray looked like someone had tasered their butts, but I felt really good. We sat down at a table and ordered lunch. As soon as we started talking, it seemed like Danny and Ray disappeared. Steph, what did your friend mean when she said I ruined your marriage? I asked. I haven't seen you since. I know it was over 10 years ago, she said. So, you were several years older than me. Your last year in college was my first. After the evil, mean bitch you married made you stop giving me lessons and seeing me in general. I graduated from high school and moved to Florida. I never stopped thinking about you. I dated several guys and always compared them to you. I made the mistake of marrying one of them. He was a lot like you. There was a problem. Why was being like me a problem? I asked. Dennis, remember when you gave me lessons and you were obsessed with Mustangs? Remember how I didn't know much about cars and cut out a bunch of pictures of cars to decorate your locker? She asked. I laughed and nodded. Are you still obsessed with Mustangs? She asked. I nodded again and smiled. Well, imagine that you were poor and you needed a car. Someone gave you a Camaro or a Challenger. You would use it and would be glad to have a car, but deep down you would be unhappy. And that's what happened. Phil was a really good guy. He tried his best to make me happy, but in the end it didn't work. I think he was happier than me when he told me that he met someone. Our divorce was without any arguments. We remained best friends. I met his new wife, and sometimes I even babysit their children. I'm sorry, I said regretfully. Why should you be sorry? She smiled. I am the happiest woman on the planet right now. I never thought I would see you again, and now I not only saw you, but was able to hold your hand and even kiss you. Wait a minute, Steph, Ray interjected. Dennis is married and... My name is Stephanie, she snorted, and that's what you should call me, nothing else. She turned back to me with the sweetest expression on her face. Besides, I don't care about such unimportant things. I still owe her one. If she hadn't separated us, who knows how things might have turned out. After we ate and talked and held hands for a while, Danny and Ray decided to head home. I offered to take Steph to her hotel. She kept trying to convince me that we should go somewhere. My phone rang, interrupting that part of the conversation. After a couple of yes and nods, I hung up. Let me guess, Steph said. It was Beaky Poo, right? Yes, ma'am, I replied. See you later, I said to Ray and Danny. Hey, we could take her to a hotel, Ray suggested. We're adults, and we can stay outside after 4 o'clock. We're adults. Fuck you, Ray, I laughed. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, Danny said. You probably meant don't do anything you can't do, Steph snorted. Oh, baby, believe me, I can do it, Danny said. Not with me, she said. I am devoted to one man. She grabbed my hand, and we headed straight to the parking lot. Are you going to get into a lot of trouble? She asked. Who cares? I answered. It's worth it. She smiled again and squeezed my hand. Belinda. So you think Eric will come to the homecoming? Penny Chapel asked. Wait, Pen, I said. I walked across the room and started talking to my mom, who was talking to a few of my other friends. Mom, as soon as Dennis gets back, he'll take you home, I said. Why the hell isn't he here already? She asked. I don't have a whole day to wait until he deigns to come. Mom, he's not here because I told him to do something, I replied. I didn't want him to get in the way, and I didn't want his friends trying to eat all the snacks and getting in the way of the planning. He better hurry, she said. You need to handle him with a tight grip. I noticed a couple of my friends looked at my mom like she was crazy. My best friend, Della, choked on her drink and coughed loudly. She stood up and followed me as I returned to Penny. Belinda, your mother is crazy, she said. I second that sentiment, Penny interjected. So are you going to answer me? Damn, I hope not, I said. Sleeping with Eric was the biggest mistake of my life. I was so close to losing Dennis over it. He had divorce papers ready. If you two hadn't lied and convinced him that I was drunk, damn, when that happened, I would definitely have lost it. It might not be the end of the world, Della said. It might even be good. How the hell could this be good? I asked. Well, if he cheated you, Della continued, you could stay with Eric permanently and after a suitable waiting period of, say, a month or so. Suddenly, I noticed greed in my best friend's eyes. I felt uncomfortable. After a suitable waiting period, your ass will be too late, Penny said. I would have taken it already. I felt even more uncomfortable. Sex with Eric was terrible, I said. And it's not just because he feels guilty about cheating on Dennis. Eric, okay, let's be adults. He doesn't know how to have sex. He's also terrible at affection. And I'm so tired of his bragging that I didn't know what to do. This was the biggest mistake of my life. And if Dennis finds out that I was with Eric more than once, my marriage is over. Why the hell did you do that? Asked Della. Dennis is in better shape than Eric, and he's better looking. He does a great job, and he really cares about you. Your BMW is probably worth twice as much as his Mustang. And Belinda, that man loves you. He puts up with everything at your whims. I heard him cutting the grass and trimming the bushes this morning. And then you sent him somewhere. It was quite cruel. You treat him more like a butler than a husband. Why are you telling me this, Del? I asked. I already told you that I made a mistake. I may not be the nicest woman on the planet, but I appreciate what I have. And in my own way, I love Dennis. There will be no more Erics. Then, walking around the hall and checking the other guests, I suddenly realized that, except for me, no one else considered this situation closed. It was even scarier to realize that my two best friends seemed ready to rush to win my husband if anything went wrong. I could understand Della. She got divorced and her first husband was terrible. This man was a real freak. He hit her several times and could not hold down his job to save his life. If he wasn't spending her money on alcohol, he was cheating on her with some 20-year-old bartender with 100 vulgar tattoos. But Penny, she was still married. How could a married woman become interested in Dennis? It didn't make sense unless she was planning on divorcing her husband too. I knew Penny, and she was the type of woman who was always looking for something better. They both had to know that if they followed Dennis even after I got divorced, it would mean the end of our friendship. Apparently, they didn't care. I tried to imagine what it would be like to be married to Eric, the guy I cheated on Dennis with. If Penny had been married to Dennis and divorced him, I probably would have followed him too. I think it would be more likely, especially if I was tired of Eric. So it made sense, except that my marriage to Dennis was not in danger. I may not have treated him as well as I could have, but I love him and he loves me. Maybe I don't always show it, but that's because I've always been a little spoiled. I started life as my daddy's little princess. Then I was a cheerleader from middle school until the end of college. This meant that I always got everything I wanted. After college, there was Dennis. He took on the role of my dad. My stupid relationship with Eric was truly the biggest mistake of my life. The only thing that saved me was that Dennis loved me so much. Della and Penny felt the need to lie for me. And when they convinced Dennis that it was just a drunken delusion, Dennis didn't divorce me. He still wanted to beat Eric up, and I begged him not to. I didn't do it to save Eric. I didn't care about Eric. I did this because if Eric and Dennis got together and Dennis found out that I had been with Eric more than once, he would realize that he was deceived and would divorce me again. But the feeling I was getting from my two best friends seemed like one, or perhaps both, might confess in order to win my husband over. I would kill one or both of them if necessary. I checked my watch again. It's impossible for the drive home from the golf course to take 45 minutes. Dennis was probably mad that I interrupted his game so he could take my mom home. Dennis and my mom didn't get along. He tried very hard to please her, but my mother thought that she was the queen of some unknown country where only she lived. She tends to treat people as if they were servants. Finally, Dennis entered. He smiled and politely greeted most of the ladies present as he crossed the room. I am very sensitive, and I noticed that something had changed in my husband. I couldn't say exactly what it was, but something was wrong. Even when he approached me, his gait was strange. Looking into my eyes, for the first time since I cheated on him, I realized that I could really lose him, and it didn't have to be because I would cheat again. It took him over 3 hours in the morning to clean the pool, trim the bushes, mow the grass, and generally clean up the yard and garden. After that, I let him go as if he was just a servant when he was the one who bought the house and paid all the bills. The look in his eyes told me that he was not only angry at me, but that I was in a vulnerable position. Perhaps Penny and Della felt it too. Hell, maybe I couldn't fit into my old cheerleader costume anymore. But who could? Dennis could, that's who. He could still fit into his football uniform. He wore it to Halloween last year. I realized then that I needed to push myself. "Honey, can you take my mom home?" I said. He didn't say a word. He simply nodded his head and walked towards her. A few minutes later, he collected her things and led her out to his car. I wondered how he deals with disappointment. He just wanted to get in the car and take her home and come back. Mom acted like she was Queen Elizabeth. She had to go around the room one more time and say goodbye to each of her faithful servants who had come to the party. My mom was completely crazy. Sometime after Mom and Dennis left, I began collecting dishes and generally cleaning up as the last of the guests began to leave. The party was a great success, and we had a lot planned for our homecoming. I needed to make sure Eric didn't get an invitation to the meeting. All I needed was for him and Dennis to meet. On one of my trips to the kitchen, the phone rang. It was my mother, and she spoke in a very quiet voice and was clearly angry. "Dennis." The trip to my mother-in-law's house had barely begun when she started hitting on me. As usual, she told me a lot of nonsense about how lucky I was to have Belinda, and how Belinda was the most beautiful girl in school all these years, and now she is a beautiful woman. According to her mother, Belinda could marry the Pope himself, and no one would be surprised. "You better start trying harder, buddy," she said. "Otherwise, one day Belinda might divorce you and kick you out of her house." "Actually, this is my home," I said. "Not in case of divorce," she chuckled. "A woman always gets a house and children. This is only in the case of community property and marriage where there are children," I said. "And why don't you give me grandchildren, you selfish bastard?" she asked sharply. I turned on the voice recording app on my iPhone and didn't answer the question. But it didn't help me. She simply repeated it, louder, a second time. "Can you hear me, Dennis Williams?" she hissed. "You selfish bastard," I asked. "Why won't you let me have goddamn grandchildren?" "Actually, Belinda wants to wait a little longer before having children," I replied as politely as possible. "Her belly was so swollen, I almost thought she was already pregnant," her mother said. "It's your fault, too. You're forcing her to eat all these fatty foods. You're desperately trying to make her so damn fat that no one else will want her, aren't you? You poor, deluded idiot. You're afraid she'll leave for a better man. Well, get used to it, because it will happen sooner or later." Then she started laughing. "And don't come to me and cry when she leaves you," she giggled. "I always thought she was too good for you. Why the hell don't you have a better car? Why don't you buy one of those nice German cars like Belinda's? I bought Belinda a car, I said. Well, you should have bought her a bigger one and a better color, she said. Belinda's car is really cool. Is it better than a big car in a better color? I asked. Don't be rude to me, young man, she snorted. Belinda chose the color and model of her car, I said. This car is too loud, she said. All I hear is vroom vroom. It sounds like a damn race car. Growing up, I'm embarrassed to be seen doing this. Wait, you're crazy. Why are you stopping? Come out, I said. What are you doing? She asked. Get your old gray ass out of my car, I said calmly. Clearly, my cheap $40,000 custom Mustang isn't good enough for you. So I'm staying here where you can take the $200,000 bus home. Belinda will be mad at you. Mate, was the last thing I heard from her as I drove away, leaving her standing at the bus stop. When I pulled into my driveway, Belinda was just leaving the house. She was furious. As she walked to her car, she carelessly stepped and broke the heel of her shoe. Dennis, tell me this is some kind of joke, she screamed. Tell me you didn't really leave my mother at the bus stop on the other side of town. I just shrugged. What could the old lady do that would make you leave her? She hissed. I took out my phone and turned on the call recording for her. Her eyes widened, then she smiled. Oh, dear, she said. You're upset because my mom called me fat. Well, I've actually put on a few extra pounds since I graduated from college, but... It was after this, I said. She continued listening. Then her eyes became hard. I thought she liked my BMW, she said. No, it was later, I said. This is the part where she said she was embarrassed to be seen in my Mustang. I couldn't let her feel embarrassed, so I dropped her off. From now on, I won't be driving your mom back and forth to visit us anymore. If she doesn't learn to behave, she may find that she is no longer welcome in the home. Belinda left even angrier than she was. A few minutes later, Ray called me. Are you home? He asked. Where else could I be? I answered. Danny and I are coming to your place. We'll help you get rid of the leftover food after the royal party. We'll bring beer. Less than 5 minutes later, Ray climbed over my back fence. Are you ready? I heard from the other side of the fence. Yes, Ray shouted. Then a box of Dos Equis amber flew over the fence. Ray caught her almost falling into the pool. Danny climbed over the gate within seconds. Danny accidentally caught his foot on one of the decorative pieces that adorned the tops of the fence posts. He fell on his chest and began to curse. Damn, Dennis, he said loudly. You need to do something about that damn fence. I started laughing. What the hell is so funny? He asked. Danny, what do you do for work? I asked. I'm an engineer just like you, idiot, he snorted. Then I think you'll like this, I said. He looked at me suspiciously. Is it true? He asked. Well, it doesn't exactly take you to other planets, I said. But it's a way of moving your atoms from one side of a wall or fence to the other instantly, so you never have to climb over it again. We'll be millionaires, he said. No, billionaires. What do you call it, and where is it? I call it. I began, and I looked from side to side, as if making sure that no one was watching us. I call it. He moved closer to hear me. I call it a gate, and your dumb ass just climbed over it, I said. I opened the gate, and it opened easily on its well-oiled hinges. Ray couldn't help but laugh. Gate, he shouted, laughing even harder. Danny looked like he was ready to explode. I used to love you, Dennis, he hissed. Shut up, Ray. You climbed over the damn fence, too. A few minutes later, we were all sitting in front of the pool, drinking beer. Ray ate the potato salad straight out of the big bowl with a fork. Danny had an entire tray of cold appetizers in his lap. What happened to Steph? Danny asked. You mean Stephanie? Ray exclaimed, imitating her voice and her icy tone. That's her damn name, for God's sake, and that's what you should call her, nothing else. We all laughed. "This girl is crazy," Danny said. "But she's so hot. Why the hell do you get all the hot women?" "She's not really crazy," I said. "She's just used to having a lot of guys stare at her. So she tries to push them away so they'll leave her alone. Away from you, who were obviously going crazy over her. She was just as quiet and calm, just like in college." "But she doesn't look like she did in college," Ray said. "If she looked like that back then, I would definitely sleep with her." "No, you wouldn't," Danny said. "Women like that choose one man. I think as soon as she saw Dennis back then, she had her mind made up. When Dennis finished school, she waited until she met and married someone like Dennis. This woman wants you, Dennis, and she'll get you, one way or another. Can you say, fatal attraction? Haven't you noticed that she doesn't care that you're married to Belinda? You can tell just by being around her that Stephanie will do anything. Anything to win you. She thought she lost you, so now, when she found you again, it started. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "Dennis, you kissed her a couple of times, and I saw the way you looked at her ass. You want her. You want to sleep with a freshman. Belinda stopped that from happening years ago. I just think you should think about something other than yourself this time," he said. "Okay, now I'm confused," I said. "What are you talking about?" "I think that when you sleep with her, you have to make it a condition that if she wants you, she has to sleep with Ray and me too," he said. "Great idea," supported Ray. "And to hell with that. You're not in danger. Your wife, Skankzilla, has been indebted to you ever since she got drunk and slept with that guy and you took her back. I still don't understand why you did that." "Only one problem with your impeccable logic, gentlemen," I said quietly. "And what is this problem?" Danny asked. "I think I really like Steph," I said seriously. "I mean, I think I can love her." "But you only saw her once after 10. Ray began, but Danny covered his mouth with his hand. "Are you serious, Dennis?" he asked. I nodded. "How serious?" he asked. "Like forever serious," I said. "I think I have a problem with redheads." "Okay, so we need to help you divorce Skankzilla," he said. "I never liked those damn cheerleaders. They're a bunch of stuck-up girls who think their shit doesn't stink. I never liked the way she treats you. Or us," he continued. "Let's start planning." I started trying to implement Plan A right away. Plan A involved me starting to respond in kind to Belinda. When she came back about an hour later complaining about how traumatized her mom was, I didn't apologize or try to de-escalate the situation like she usually expected. As soon as she entered the room, I turned to her and said, "Quick, get me a beer before it starts." She ran to the kitchen and brought me a beer. I drank it all down and looked at her. "Quickly, bring me another one," I said. "It's about to start." She ran to the kitchen again and returned with another beer. I opened it and started drinking, and she turned to me. "Dennis, my mother was terrified," she screamed. "I can't believe you left it at the bus stop in that area." "Oh, damn," I said. Began. She looked at me in surprise. "What started?" she asked. "You start whining about another problem that I'm not interested in at all," I said. "Your mother got into the car and started cursing everything from me to you to your car. When she started complaining that she was embarrassed to be in my car, I thought about her feelings. I didn't want her to feel bad, so I dropped her off. Sometimes people just need to shut up." I stood up and left her standing wondering where her usually gentle and accommodating husband was and what could have happened to make him change so much. An hour later, when she thought I had calmed down, she went out onto the terrace. "You know, Dennis, you shouldn't take my mom so seriously. She's just an old woman. You know how it is with old people. And after my dad died, she really didn't have much left to talk to. She's lonely. Belinda, they say that with age comes wisdom, not stupidity," I said. "And maybe she's lonely because she doesn't know when to shut up. I know she never thought I was worthy of you. I guess in her mind, I should be some kind of Buttalapool man breadwinner. But we've been married for over 10 years now. You'd think that would earn me at least an ounce of respect, even if she doesn't love me. She just looked at me. She started to say before I spoke again. What really irritates me is that she deceived me, I snapped. She looked at me. 3 years ago, when the incident happened. I smiled to myself, seeing how tense she was. I knew this would alarm her. She and your father came here to talk to me, I continued. They tried to convince me to give up my plans for divorce. She cried and whined then too. She vowed to start treating me better. Apparently, her promises are not worth a damn. It makes me wonder what else there is to rely on, or who he's still lying to. She took a deep breath and smiled, squeezing my hand. She told me she was going to get ready for bed, and I'll see you in bed. I saw that she was upset. Belinda. After the homecoming planning party, I noticed a change in Dennis. He seemed irritable and angry. If I didn't know better, I would suspect two things. The first is that Dennis was offended. For some reason, my husband noticed how I treated him and his feelings were hurt. I think he doubted that I loved him, and he reacted with anger. The second thing I suspected was that one of those bitches who claimed to be my girlfriend said something to him to make him realize how badly I treated him. It certainly could have been someone else who told Dennis, but I truly believed after our conversation on Saturday that it was either Della or Penny. The nasty thing is that I couldn't really figure out what to do until I figured out who the rat was. If it was either Della or Penny, I was screwed. I couldn't do anything to them because if I made any of them angry, they would just tell Dennis that I slept with Eric more than once, which he knew about. They might as well have told him that I wasn't actually drunk. My marriage would be over faster than one of these bitches could take off her panties. I focused on trying to mend my relationship with Dennis. I started trying to do things with him, but more often than not he refused. He seemed to spend a lot of time on the golf course. It was probably because I told him to go there on Saturday, and he teased me about it. He also spent a lot of time with those Neanderthal friends. I had nothing to say about it because he was friends with these two idiots forever. They played football with him in school and college. Maybe I should try to win them over instead of alienating them. And Dennis seemed to be specifically looking for a reason to quarrel with me. One of the things that really told me that he was angry with me was almost funny. When I was angry with Dennis, I used to hit him below the belt. I pretended to be tired or not in the mood for sex. I could get whatever I wanted from Dennis after a week without sex. But this time Dennis decided to play my game against me. The night of the planning party, he came into bed and I waited for him to start touching me. He rolled over and pretended he was going to sleep. Half an hour later, I noticed that he was really asleep and rolled away from me as far as the bed would allow. I was surprised. When he repeated this the next night, I realized I might have a problem. The next day, I wore the lowest cut blouse I owned and made sure to keep my breasts in his face at all times. It didn't change anything. By the fourth night, I was already very excited. I started to wonder what I could do other than just ask him for sex. A woman is not supposed to do this. I've never had to do this before. Damn, before this Dennis wanted me every night. I was the one who had to hit the brakes. If I followed his impulses, I would not be able to walk, and I would always have bruises and kiss marks on my neck and chest. I was with a few guys before I met Dennis in college, but he was truly the best. Part of it was that Dennis loved me so much that he was willing to do anything to please me. Even in our college days, this set him apart from the crowd of those Neanderthal football players. Most of these bastards thought they were a gift from the gods to women. They thought that running around in those tight pants and catching a ball or knocking it down, sweeping someone off their feet, makes them much better than the rest of humanity. A couple of guys on the team expected you to pleasure them for an hour or so, but they refused to do the same in return. They had the ugliest expressions on their faces when you hinted about it. They understood this completely. I don't judge my attitude there. Eric was the only time I cheated on Dennis, and it was Dennis' fault. You see, Dennis was a victim of his own success. The more he did for me, the more I thought I deserved, and the worse I felt about him. I started to think that maybe there was someone better suited for me than Dennis. Eric was a big damn mistake. Firstly, because he treated me like an easily accessible girl. But I think I saw it coming. He knew I was married and decided that a married woman looking for sex is easy to get. It was also a mistake because Eric was terrible in bed. There was no affection before sex. He thought that if I cheated on my husband, then it was time for me to run away and I should always be ready. In addition, he claimed that most germs were transmitted during sex through kissing, and he did not kiss any woman except him. The final and worst insult came when I discovered that he had bragged about sleeping with me. He even tried to blackmail me. He showed up at a party I was at and was waiting to get me away from Dennis. He told many of his friends that we had sex. He made me go to his car. My goal was to keep him quiet about it. After the first time, I did not have the opportunity to have sex with him again. He convinced me that if I did it again, he would never tell anyone about it again. So I let him have sex with me in his car. The second time it was even worse, and the consequences were much worse than sex. I went back inside and started drinking heavily. I wanted to try to forget what had just happened. After all, I was special. I was the main cheerleader. I should have been a princess. I should not have been persuaded and used. Anyway, while I was struggling to drink all the alcohol in our host's bar, I heard a lot of screaming and saw Eric running through the house with his clothes torn and escaping out the front door. "Serves you right, asshole," I shouted after him, being drunk. I immediately stopped talking when I noticed two guys trying to keep Dennis from going after Eric, and everyone in the room was looking at me. "What?" I asked, holding a half-empty bottle of vodka. I still feel cold from Dennis's gaze. "Nothing," Dennis said. I dropped the bottle and it broke on the floor. I knew he said nothing, but it meant something. Even when I was drunk, I knew I had problems. I started trying to approach him, but I could barely stand. "Dennis," I said quietly. "I loved you." "Belinda," he said. "We've been married for 6.5 years, but I loved you before that. I do everything I can to make you happy. I loved you with everything I have, but that meant nothing." He simply turned away from me and left the house. He got into his Mustang and drove off. That almost ended the party. Della took me home to sober up. The next morning, I was on the verge of a breakdown. Dennis didn't answer the phone. He didn't talk to me at all. We were separated for almost a month until Della and Penny convinced him that I was drunk when it happened and Eric took advantage of me. It took a while after our reunion to convince him not to go after Eric. I finally convinced him that he got all the revenge he needed when he beat up Eric at the party and kicked him out of the house. In reality, I just didn't want him to find out the truth about my relationship with Eric. Now the problem is that any of those bitches who had already shown interest in Dennis could have told him what really happened. Dennis didn't return to his place after the first week. I was so excited that I was ready to handcuff him to bed. I saw him looking at the cheerleaders while watching a football game, and I spoke to him. "Dennis, do you fantasize about having sex with a cheerleader?" I asked him. "I can go upstairs and put on my uniform." "You'll tear it trying to get in," he said. I was furious. "I was built just like them," I said. "You were built better than them," he said, and I smiled, thinking I had simply misunderstood his first comment. "Well, honey, I still have the same figure," I said in a hoarse voice. "It's true," he said. "You still have the same figure, but you've stretched it all out." I was furious. "Dennis, my breasts have gotten bigger since then. Most women get bigger breasts as they get older. Because my breasts, which you love to play with so much, have gotten bigger, it makes my body seem fuller. That's all." "What are you saying? Are my breasts suddenly making me look fat?" I asked. "It's not about your breasts," he said. "I love them. It's not your breasts that make you look fat." "Well, honey, you have to understand that married women don't dress as sexy as single girls. My clothes are looser too, because I dress for comfort. I already have my husband, so I don't have to squeeze into jeans, in that I can't breathe. Do you want me to wear tighter pants? Do my pants make me look fat? No, Belinda, he said. Your pants don't make you look fat. It's your legs, your ass, that belly, and those saggy cheeks that make you look fat. I almost hit him. The next day, I collected Della and Penny. After talking to them individually and together, I was pretty sure that none of them were gossiping behind my back. We discussed everything that happened, and they made me understand again that it was all my fault. Then we tried to figure out how I could get out of this situation. Dennis, this doesn't work, I said. I thought so, Danny said. Am I covering for you again while you play golf? Ray asked. I just smiled. Damn it, Dennis. How much golf do you need? Are you supposed to be Tiger Woods or something? I can't help it, Ray, I said. I love her. And she's going to Florida soon. I think I'm going to die. Time to move on to Plan B, Danny said. What the hell is Plan B? I asked. I was as angry with her as I could be. I called her fat and refused to have sex with her. How could you do that when the redhead is done with you? Ray chuckled. Can you call her by her name? I asked. Don't be mad at me, Dennis, Ray laughed. I protected your skinny ass for 4 years in football. Every quarterback needs left side protection. Also, if you remember, I'm not allowed to call her Steph. Everyone else on this planet has to call her Stephanie, which is too many syllables for me to remember when I'm not the one who gets this bitch. Gentlemen, Danny said. Ray and I immediately looked around to see who he was talking about. I meant you two idiots, he said. Guess who's in town looking for work? He asked. Ray and I were puzzled. Hank Walker, he said. Oh damn, I hate that bastard, I said. Hank Walker was definitely not a team player. All he cared about was his own statistics. He didn't care about the team. You hate him too much to use him to get out of Skankzilla? Danny asked. We need Hank to work on Plan B. What's Plan B? I asked. Plan A was to start a fight with Belinda and then file for divorce. That didn't work, so we'll have to play dirty. Plan B would have Belinda cheat on you again, and then you could divorce her. And since if we don't live in a state with automatic property division, you'll be able to keep most of your stuff. If this works, the 4 of us could be in Florida in a couple of months. What are the 4 of us? I asked. You and Stephanie and my wife Annie and me, he said. You and I are engineers, so we can both get a transfer to our facility in Florida. My wife Annie is a nurse. She can find a job anywhere, and I'm tired of the cold winters. What about me? Ray complained. You're lonely, you idiot, Danny said. You can do anything. Then why didn't you say there are 5 of us? Ray was indignant. I want to be involved. I'm not sure you're a good influence on Dennis, Danny said. Besides, you're a womanizer. I thought you'd want to stay here and sleep with Skankzilla. You've always wanted a cheerleader. Yes, but I wanted to be young, fresh, and beautiful. Not fat, worn out, faded with big breasts and an even bigger belly, Ray said. Plus, she treats herself like she's so special that she doesn't even poop. When she eats, all her digested food turns into sunlight that shines out of her butt. It's probably all the digested food that's making her belly bloat, Danny said. What's the plan? I asked. Remember how you ruined Hank's chances of an NFL career? Danny asked. Who am I? I asked. Don't act like you don't understand, Dennis, Danny said. Hank got too proud. He even made a pass to Belinda, so you decided to take him down. You waited for the game where all the scouts were and set him up. You never gave him the ball if he had double coverage. Even then you threw the ball just above his head, so he had to jump after it. Then the opposing cornerbacks or safeties knocked him down while he was in the air. The 3rd time you did it, he was taken out of the game. He still walks with a limp and suffers from back pain. I can't believe you think I did this, I said. I can't believe you did this because of Belinda, Ray said. She was less angry then, I said. Only for you, Ray said. Anyway, Hank hates me, I said. Why will he help us? Because the fool won't know he's helping us, Danny chuckled. He'll think this is his big chance to get back at you. We just need a few things and have your lawyer ready, because when that happens, we'll need to act fast. Over the next few days, I hired a lawyer. I only told her that I was sure that my wife was cheating on me again. This woman was a real shark in divorce. The fact that Belinda had already cheated on me once, and I forgave her and took her back, impressed her greatly. She was confident that we could win the court on our side. From the way she spoke, I got the impression that after this, Belinda would be living with her mother in a nursing home. I also had to buy several new video cameras and bugs for our house and Belinda's cell phone. In addition, I needed portable cameras for those who would conduct surveillance. It would most likely be Ray because Danny was dealing with Hank. He convinced Hank that I was still a smug asshole with a stick of self-righteousness up my ass. They met at the bar a few times, and that was enough to make Hank go after Belinda as some kind of revenge against me. I should note that Hank had a wife and 2 children that he brought with him to town and was currently unemployed. The same do-it-yourself streak that ruined his place on the team got him fired from so many jobs that he had to move back home. Hank was also convinced that a loss of confidence due to injury and failure as a professional football player had ruined his career, so he blamed me for getting fired from his job so often. In fact, every flawed dream and failure he had in his entire life was, in his mind, linked to me. He even blamed me for things that happened to him before we met. I was the bane of his existence, and I didn't even know it. Well, after this is all over, I'll have to find a way to let him know that I set him up again. According to Danny, things were going well with Hank. We had a few small problems that needed to be worked out, but nothing that couldn't be overcome with a little money and thinking. The first was the need to somehow turn the unemployed and generally unattractive Hank into someone Belinda might be interested in. Because Belinda still saw herself as a young, beautiful cheerleader who thought her shit smelled like roses. Fat, balding, unemployed Hank was someone she would reject at a glance. The obvious and only answer to the situation was to buy Hank a couple of suits and give him some money to spend on Belinda. Then, of course, he would probably wonder where the money came from and why anyone would be willing to go to such lengths. We got Danny's wife, Annie, involved in this case. Annie agreed to help us because A, she thought the idea was funny. B, she really wanted to move to Florida. And B, she hated Belinda to the core. Annie had gone to college with us and still remembered Belinda's disgusting attitude towards anyone she didn't consider worthy of being in her presence. At that time, Annie was just a medical student. Because she wasn't a cheerleader or a candidate for prom queen, she was beneath Belinda's attention. The cool thing about the last meeting was that Ray and I could sit at the bar with our hats on and change clothes. Danny called me right before Hank sat down at the table and left his cell phone connected to mine so Ray and I could hear the entire conversation. "Hey, Danny," he said, sitting up nervously. "I had questions, but, I see you have company." Then Annie began to play her role. She stood up and looked at Hank, shaking her head. "We need to buy him clothes and cut his hair," she said. Both of these things were obvious. Then she really started to stick thickly. "He's still an amazingly sweet guy, even after all these years," she said. "This thing is crazy," Ray whispered next to me. "He's only 33 or 34 like us, but the bastard looks 55. "Shut up, asshole," I hissed. "They can hear you on the phone. She's just trying to boost his confidence." "Oh, I knew it," Ray smiled. Then a puzzled look appeared on his face. "How will cheating help boost his confidence?" I gave him an angry look, and he fell silent. "So you're in?" asked Hank. "Who are you?" "I'm Annie Nemkova," she said. "I went to college with you too." "Did you study?" he asked. "I don't remember." "You don't remember me, do you?" she said. "I wasn't popular, so it's not surprising." "So you hate Dennis too?" he asked. "Every cell of my body," she said, laughing. Oh damn, she ruined everything, I said. Even Danny turned away. Surprisingly, Annie picked up the ball again after her foul and carried it. Sorry, I laughed, she said. But it's so liberating to say it out loud in the company of other people who feel the same way. I fell under his spell one day. Like everyone else, I thought he was the sweetest guy ever. That bastard charmed me right out of my knickers and almost destroyed my marriage. Ray and I looked at each other and even patted each other on the back. We were so amazed by Annie's acting skills. I'll get this woman an Oscar, I whispered. Everyone in the bar was looking at us. Touchdown, I shouted. Long live Blue, Ray shouted. The people who were staring at us went back to their business and forgot about us. Are you married? Asked Hank. Behind him, she said, pointing at Danny, who looked shocked and then played it off. Yes, she said. That damn Dennis almost ruined our marriage. It took us years to get over his stalking and seduction of me. I still don't understand why he went after his best damn friend's wife. He's just evil. I hate that bastard too, Hank snorted. He ruined my whole life. First, he stopped me from getting into the NFL. How did he do it? Annie asked. I think he paid the other team's players to beat me up, Hank said. Don't they already do that? Annie asked. Well, yeah, but when you pay them, they make it even harder, Hank said. And as if that weren't enough, I think he followed me all over the Midwest, firing me from job after job. I think he paid people to fire me, and always fired me for stupid things. That's why I'm sure that he was involved in this. What things did you get fired for? Annie asked. Even from where I was, I could see how difficult it was for her to keep a serious expression on her face. Well, I got fired for not selling enough, Hank blurted out. Apparently, he went to my clients and paid them not to buy anything from me. I was fired 3 times for sexual harassment. I'm sure he had something to do with the last 2. In fact, I would bet my life on it. Why the last 2? Annie asked. Well, the last one was with Ugly as Sin, he said. A woman this ugly should be happy that someone is harassing her. And the one before her was fat. Fat women should be desperate. How the hell can a fat woman file a sexual harassment complaint? Someone definitely paid her for it, and we know who it was, don't we? Annie jumped up. Sorry, she said. I need to go to the toilet. When she returned to the table, still red-faced, Danny and Hank were still discussing all the reasons why he believed I had been following him all over the Midwest, ruining his every job. Sorry, I really needed it, Annie said. Why do you think he does this? I know why he did what he did to me. Both Danny and Hank looked at her. It was sex, she said. He wanted me hot, and there's no one hotter, right, Danny? Danny nodded his head. But why will he follow you all over the country, ruining your life? She asked. Out of jealousy, Hank spat. He was always jealous of me. The quarterback is usually the leader of the team, but my obvious leadership qualities made him jealous. And he dated Belinda. Belinda was attracted to me. He knew that he would lose her because of me, so he resorted to devious tricks to hold her. So Belinda really loved you? Annie asked. Both she and Danny were fighting back tears. If that bastard hadn't interfered, Belinda and I would probably be married now. She was crazy about me, but most women are like that. You said it yourself. I'm an attractive man, he said. Yes, Annie agreed. You and Belinda belong together. Tomorrow, you and my husband will go shopping together. And the next evening, we'll arrange for you and Belinda to meet by chance. From there, we'll just unleash the magic. Aren't you coming? He asked. Maybe a woman's opinion on clothing would be helpful. I already screwed it up once, she said. I'm not sure I should spend much time with you. I understand, Hank said. He stood up and drained his glass, then left the bar. When he reached the door, he turned to the table and gave Annie what he probably thought was a heated look, and then walked out. Hank and Annie couldn't help but laugh and continued laughing. I went to the door. Hank was standing at the bus stop across the street. I made sure he got on the bus and then joined Ray, Danny, and Annie at the table. They were still laughing. I hugged Annie so tightly that I lifted her off the floor. "Thank you so much, Annie," I said. "You were brilliant." "Hey, stop it," Ray said. "You don't want things to go too far again." We looked at him. "Ray," Danny said. "Let me guess," Ray said. "Are you okay with Dennis sleeping with your wife?" "Wow, I never thought you were a coward. And you would think that if you were going to let anyone have her, it should have been me. I'm the only one of us who is not married and—" Danny and I just shook our heads. "Ray, it didn't happen," I said. "I don't go around and sleep with other men's wives, especially not my friends' wives." He looked at Annie. "You lied to Hank," he accused. "He's an asshole," Annie said. "But he's only an asshole because Dennis ruined his life," Ray said. "What I can't understand is how Dennis finds time to do his job while he's chasing Hank around the Midwest, ruining his life." Ray, I'll explain that to you later," Danny said. Annie looked at me and smiled. "It was fun," she said. "I'll wait until I call my cousin and tell her. She'll love it." I looked at her in surprise. She nudged Danny in the side. "You didn't tell him, did you?" she asked. "I forgot," Danny admitted. "What?" I asked. "Okay, I think you should know," Danny said. "Annie always hated Belinda, even during college. She always thought you were too good for Belinda, so she tried to set you up with her cousin." "I don't remember this," I said. "Yes, you remember," Danny said. "Last Saturday, Della, who is friends with Annie, called her and asked why she didn't come to the party your wife was throwing. They talked for a while, and the conversation came up about how Belinda kicked us all out of the house. Della told Annie that we were going to play golf. Annie called her cousin, who was in town on business, and told her what golf course we would be at. Her cousin arrived at the golf course a little earlier than us, and you have been since then. Studying its lower regions." "So, my Steph, is this your cousin?" I asked Annie. Annie looked at Danny, and her eyes widened. "So when we get married, I'll be your cousin?" I asked. Yeah," Annie smiled. "I told you so," Danny said. Belinda. Nothing I did seemed to matter to Dennis. It got to the point where he wouldn't even do what I told him to do. A couple of days ago, I politely asked him to stop at a cosmetics store on the way home and find out what shades of red nail polish they had. I told him to just go to the store, take a photo of their red shades, and send me the photos. Then I would tell him which one I should bring. He didn't even bother to stop. When he came in, I was surprised to see no bags with him. "Where's my polish?" I asked sweetly. "You forgot, right?" He looked at me with a look that I had never seen before. Then he simply smiled. "I didn't even stop," he said. I realized then that my mother was right. My Dennis was getting insolent with me. He was acting completely crazy. I expected him to start singing "We Shall Overcome" at any moment. "Belinda, I love you," he said. I already knew that. Even though he had been mean to me for almost 2 weeks, I knew that Dennis loved me. We didn't have sex for a long time, but he loved me. I think he was trying to convey some ideas to me. To my mother, the following statement began to push me towards her point of view. "Belinda, I have to work all day, 5 days a week," he said. "I didn't see the point in this. Someone had to do the work, and I didn't think it had to be me. You're home all day," he continued. "You do as much housework as you want, all day long. You don't stick to a schedule. You don't have anyone to give you tasks. You don't have a deadline. You don't have a team to coordinate with. You can do whatever you want. Whenever." "Well, Dennis, that's why I stopped working," I said. "So if you have so much time to do nothing," he said angrily, "why can't you get off your ass and go get your own polish?" "Because I was resting," I said. "If I had to get up and go somewhere, I wouldn't rest anymore." He just left. It ended with another night without sex. In fact, he went to the golf club again. I knew it was my fault because I sent him there first. But at least he was polite. I could tell he was using the shower at the golf club. Previously, when he went bowling or played golf, he would come home covered in sweat and want to have sex with me right away. I missed those days. The next day, when I was in the store, a man suddenly appeared in front of me and we collided. He dropped his briefcase. I was ready to yell at him when he looked up at me. "Oh my God, Belinda, is that you?" he asked. "You haven't changed at all. I'm sure you can still fit into your cheerleader uniform." I just looked at him and smiled. "I just finished a meeting with a client," he said. "I don't usually go to them. They should come to me. But this is a $3 million bill. What brings you here?" "I was shopping," I said. "I'd really like to know what happened to you after school," he said. "Can you spare some time for me over a cup of coffee or a glass of drink?" I said, "Any one of them." He chose a bar right in this building, and after I put my purchases in the trunk of my BMW, we sat down. We spent the whole day talking. It took me a while to remember Hank from college, but after he started complimenting me, I relaxed. Hank told me a lot of new things, including what a jerk Dennis was in college. I barely remembered Hank reprimanding me at school. I think the only reason I remembered it was because it was fun for me to see Dennis get jealous and yell at me to stay away from this guy. Towards the end of the day, Hank slipped his hands under my skirt and moved towards the promised land. Various thoughts flashed through my head. Hank was probably as rich as Croesus, and he wanted me badly. On the other hand, I loved Dennis. But Dennis treated me badly because I treated him badly. We couldn't let this continue. Sooner or later, someone had to give in. I was horny as a herd of cattle, and Dennis refused to fulfill his marital duty because he was angry with me. So if I gave it to someone else, it would be fair. Of course, I would never tell him. Then I thought about what would happen if he caught me again. There would be no second chance this time. But I began to think differently when Hank's hands approached the promised land. I called it the promised land because it was promised to my husband. But if he didn't build on the property, perhaps it could be temporarily rented out. My thoughts were jumping. Hank wasn't as attractive as my husband. He was decrepit and balding and did not smell very nice. On the other hand, he controlled multi-million-dollar accounts. If Dennis had caught us, I would have just married Hank. An hour later, we found ourselves at the motel. I paid for the room because Hank only had $100 bills, and he was sure that the motel manager with flea bags couldn't break a single one. Hank tried very hard, but he upset me even more. The next day, we agreed on a date at the same motel. I went home upset, but I wasn't upset anymore because if Dennis hadn't had sex with me that night, I would have done everything I could to wake Hank up the next day. Dennis didn't realize it, but he was about to lose the best thing that had ever happened to him. For the first time in my life, I realized that Dennis was stupid. Engineer or not, my husband is mucking foron. When I got home, Penny came. I swore her to secrecy and told her about my situation. She looked at me as if there was something wrong with me. "Belinda, Hank Walker is a genetic disorder," she said. "Don't you remember him? He's nowhere near as attractive as Dennis." "Hank Walker wants me so bad. Dennis won't even touch me," I spat. "If you can't be with the one you love, take the person you have." "But Belinda, do you remember that disgusting lunch lady in college? You know, the one who weighed about 400 pounds and had a huge mole on the tip of her giant hooked nose. Remember how she was the one who looked better in her hairnet? She smelled worse than mystery meat." "Yes," I said, shuddering from the memories. "Honey, Hank Walker slept with her. He was chasing everything that wasn't secured, and he's famous for something." She took out her phone and called her husband. "Honey, do you remember Hank Walker from school?" She smiled at me. "Yes, this is the same one. Isn't he holding some kind of sports thing in his hands?" She smiled at me. "I already know he was a big football star until Dennis got jealous and ruined his career," I said. "Belinda, Hank Walker still holds the NCAA record for most errors in a season and most dropped passes. He is also the only player in history to hit a header into the goalpost and pass out, she said with a big smile on her face. See, I told you he was a big football star, I smiled. Maybe I'll let Dennis know I met him and he'll get jealous. Darling, don't be stupid, she said. If Dennis finds out that Hank is hanging around you, your marriage is over. So what? Hank makes millions now, I said. Unlike Dennis, who obviously peaked in college. She just rolled her eyes at me and shook her head. I'll give Dennis a chance, I said. But I'm only doing this out of loyalty and because I love him. If Dennis doesn't prove himself tonight, it'll be Hank's turn tomorrow. Belinda, please don't do this, she begged. Don't worry, I told her. I'm not really going to let Dennis find out. He only found out last time because damn Eric showed up at the party we were at and started bragging about being with me. Dennis doesn't even know Hank is in town. So, feeling confident, I sat down on the couch to wait for Dennis to return. He came home, changed his clothes, and cheerfully went down the stairs. He looked happier than ever. I don't remember the last time I saw a grown man jumping for joy. He headed straight for the door. Where are you going? I asked. Play golf, he smiled. He even leaned over and playfully flicked my chest. They're huge, he said. Then he headed towards the door. Dennis, you forgot your golf clubs, I said. Belinda, he frowned. I don't use these clubs. I wore them because you bought them for me. But they are the worst golf clubs in the world. I tried to leave them at the club and someone returned them to me. I left them at the bus stop nearby with a golf club, and when I got home, they were lying on our porch. He sat down next to me and looked into my eyes. Belinda, I don't want to lie to you anymore, he said. My game has gotten a lot better. I love golf now, but I haven't used these clubs all week. He stood up and walked out the door. I heard the sound of his Mustang engine. My mom was right. This thing was loud as hell. Then I remembered that he liked it. He paid more money for this exhaust system. I'll have to explain this to my mom somehow. That night, Dennis returned home just after dark. I knew he hated playing in the dark, so he was always home by 10. His round of golf must have been grueling because although he was grinning from ear to ear, he looked like a beaten dog. Luckily, he took a shower. I went up to our bedroom, and he was already lying in bed. I stripped naked and approached him. Sorry, honey, he said. I left all my strength on the golf course. It was amazing. Maybe tomorrow. And he fell asleep, but he still had that damn smile on his face. I was angry. Dennis was finally in a good mood, but I still didn't get any sex. Well, he took a shot and missed. Now it's Hank's turn, and for all I knew, Hank could stay at bat until Dennis was ready again. However, I had some good news. I found out why Dennis came out of his mood. It had nothing to do with my actions at all. This was obvious from the start. Dennis started acting strange on the day of the party. Still, it had nothing to do with how I felt about him. All my stupid friends were wrong. It was just guilt that made him so angry. Dennis was basically a good guy. He has always been my puppy and always will be. He felt ashamed and blamed himself for his terrible treatment of my mother. He had been in a bad mood ever since he left her at the bus stop. This morning he called her from work to apologize, and everything was fine between them again. He came home energetic and happy, but then spent all that energy hitting a hole in one on the golf course. He should have used his stick and balls at my house. The next morning, Dennis leaned over the bed and kissed me tenderly before leaving for work. My Dennis is back. I was still angry, and I was still excited. I was angry because Dennis put me through over 2 weeks of hell because of something between him and my mother. He had no right to treat me like that because of her. I know my mother has a great tongue, but that doesn't give him the right to treat me like that. My date with Hank will still happen. I arrived at the motel and went into the same room as yesterday. Underneath my clothes, I had a custom Victoria's Secret lingerie set. The set included a corset that reduced my waist by 4 inches and sharpened my profile. It made my waist look narrower and my breasts look bigger. I knew this would fire Hank up. When I knocked on the door, Hank opened it. Something was wrong. Hank was wearing the same suit he wore yesterday. Why does a millionaire wear the same suit 2 days in a row? Hank, isn't this the same suit you wore yesterday? I asked. Oh my gosh, I forgot I was wearing it, he said. Then I realized that he was a bachelor. No woman would allow her husband to wear the same clothes 2 days in a row. I think I did it because it's my favorite costume and I wanted to look my best for you, he said. You're so beautiful. I felt warmth below. This was the beginning. Hank got me in the mood for sex. I took off my clothes and he saw my underwear. His eyes immediately lit up and he pushed me hard onto the bed. It was terrible sex. I think Hank was too exhausted to even lift his head. I don't know why, because he didn't really do anything. I craned my neck to look over his massive body and saw in horror as people burst into the room. There were 2 men with cameras. One appeared to be filming with a high-quality still camera and the other with a high-definition video camera. For some reason, my mother was there too, along with a couple of people she knew. Dennis' Neanderthal friends were there too. My mother looked at me and shook her head. But the worst thing was seeing Dennis. He looked terrible. Tears flowed from his eyes, and he continued to scream. Why? He almost sounded like he was parodying Nancy Kerrigan after Tanya Harding's thugs smashed her knee. Then I heard a very piercing, very high-pitched scream. The sound seemed to galvanize Hank. He jumped up and started trying to get dressed when he heard this scream outside. It seems that when Hank stood up, Dennis recognized him and something clicked in him. I always secretly loved the fact that Dennis was so jealous and would always fight over me, but this time I was terrified. Dennis rushed towards Hank and started beating him like a piñata. Although they were about the same height, Dennis was smaller but in much better shape than Hank. Hank couldn't even put up any resistance, let alone retaliate. Then the screams got closer. Suddenly, a short, plump woman with a huge hooked nose ran into the room, followed by 3 of the ugliest children I have ever seen. A woman would not need makeup to play one of the hobbits in the Lord of the Rings films. Her legs were also quite large. Stop hitting my husband, she screamed. Dennis turned to her angrily. Let me do it, she cried. She ran up to Hank and hit him below the belt. Hank screamed louder than anything I had ever heard in my life. He writhed in agony on the floor while both cameras filmed him, and some people in the room spat on him. Then that angry little woman turned to me. She hit me and I lost my ability to reason. It was like a lightning strike. She hit me so hard that I couldn't see. All I saw was a blinding white light. I heard a cry, "Give this bitch more." The voice sounded like my mother's. I turned to look at her and felt something dig into my ankle. I looked down and saw a small troll-like child viciously biting me. I looked behind Dennis. He left the room, still crying. I got out of bed, wearing only a corset. My ass and everything below my waist were still exposed, but I didn't care. I needed to catch up with Dennis and try to explain. My brain worked hard and came up with the best lie I could come up with. Dennis, honey, he slipped me something, I screamed. He was always jealous of us. Remember, back in college. Did he put something on you twice? Asked Dennis. Everyone in the room turned to look at me, including my mother. What do you mean, dear? I asked. He brought you to this same motel room yesterday, he said. That's how I knew where to go. You've been acting bad for a while now, so I hired a private investigator to keep an eye on you. The last time you treated me like that was after you cheated on me with that guy Eric. You're a bitch, Hank's midget wife screamed. Then she jumped up and hit me again. A beautiful young blonde made her way through the crowd and approached me. Except for the fact that she was taller, slimmer, and prettier than me, and the fact that we looked nothing alike. We could have been twins. She was carrying a briefcase and chewing gum. She clicked her gum a few times and then spoke to me. "Belinda Williams?" she asked. I nodded. "It's her," several people in the crowd shouted. "Bitch," others shouted. "You have been served," she said, handing me a huge stack of papers. I grabbed her hand as she turned to leave. "Do you have a car?" I asked. "Of course," she said, pointing to a pink Mustang GT emblazoned with the logos of a women's charity. "Help your cheerleading friend." "Honey," I said, "get me out of here." "I've never been a cheerleader," she said. "Have a good day." And the bitch left, leaving me alone to face the crowd. Having no other choice, I started running away from people. I had walked less than half a block when a police car pulled up in front of me. Two officers got out of the car with their hands on their pistols. "Get on the ground," one officer shouted. "For what?" I asked. "We've been keeping an eye on this house," the officer said. "The owner of the house warned us that his crazy ex-wife might try to break in before he sold it. You look pretty crazy." "And the ex is enough," another police officer added. "Get out of here," said the first officer, "and don't come back. I'm warning you, next time you'll end up in jail." I approached my neighbor's house, a dear old lady. She opened the door slightly, leaving the chain behind. "Mrs. Durite, can you help me?" I asked. "I'm the one who called the police," she said. "Should I call them again?" "We've lived next to each other for 10 years, I said. "I fed your cat when you were on vacation. I watered your plants. I took care of you when you were sick. All I ask is that you let me make a few calls." "Okay," she muttered. "I probably owe you something. But I don't like easy access, so as soon as you call, we're even. Move away from the door and keep your hands visible." She left the house without taking her eyes off me. She had a cordless phone in one hand. Obviously, she won't let me into the house again. Surprisingly, on the other hand, she was holding a very businesslike looking gun and kept it pointed at me. The most incredible thing, however, was that for some reason there was a bottle of Lysol disinfectant in the pocket of her old-fashioned dress. I picked up the phone and called Dennis' cell phone. He answered after 2 rings. "Hello," he said. He didn't sound upset. He actually sounded quite cheerful. "Dennis, I'm so sorry," I said. "Please forgive me. Can we just sit down and—" All I heard was a beep. I called again, and the call went straight to voicemail. The answering machine said his mailbox was full, which was impossible. His voicemails were stored on the company's servers. I often had to empty Dennis's mailbox because he rarely listened to them, and sometimes he had 500 or 600 messages. I called Dennis's work. I'm told he took the day off to play golf. His secretary hung up before I could even ask to leave him a message. I think I heard her call me a bitch when she hung up. And the strange thing is, it seems to me that she wanted me to hear it. I called my mom. I had to call her 3 times before she answered. "What?" she asked. "Mom, I need a place to stay until I figure this out," I said. It seemed like we had to wait forever for an answer. "After the way you treated poor Dennis, why should I let you stay here?" she asked. "I'm your daughter," I hissed. "And you don't even like Dennis. You always said he wasn't right for you." "It was tough love," she said. "I was tough on him so that he would never treat you badly or neglect you. For the last 10 years, this guy was like your Christmas Santa Claus. He bought you this beautiful house. He bought you a damn BMW. And you treated him like a damn lackey. But it's even worse because you cheated on him with a loser who's married to a circus performer or something. What were you even thinking about treating this poor guy like a king? Especially after he took you back after the first cheating incident." "Mom, how do you know this?" I asked. "It's all over the news, stupid," she said. "It's so bad that Dennis plans to leave town after the divorce." "What do you mean divorces?" I asked. "Hank's wife is getting divorced too," she said. "This is wonderful," I said. "Can you come and pick me up?" "If I had a damn car, why would poor Dennis have to pick me up and drop me off all the time?" she asked. "Get in the taxi," but drive up to the back door. I don't want anyone to know that I'm related to the town's rogue." Before I could tell her that I didn't have money for a taxi, she hung up. I called Penny. She agreed to come and pick me up. I thanked Mrs. Durite. She immediately sprayed the entire phone with Lysol disinfectant and wiped it down with a rag she took from the same pocket. She then repeated the procedure and threw the rags into the trash. "Could you wait for your friend somewhere so that my husband Dudley won't see you if he returns home early?" she asked before closing the door. "Dudley has a weakness for bitches." A few minutes later, Penny pulled up. She looked around the house, although she saw me. "Sit in the back seat and keep your head down," she said. I looked at her in surprise. As she pulled away from the curb, I looked at her. She wore huge sunglasses. "So be it. Is Dennis okay?" she asked. "Damn it, Penny," I hissed. "At least wait until I try to save my marriage before you start throwing yourself at my husband. You are my friend, after all." "So I should be punished for being your friend?" she sighed. "Keep your damn head down. I don't want anyone to see you in my car." She dropped me off at the back door of the senior living building where my mother lived and stormed off like I was on fire. My mom met me at the back door and quickly took me inside her apartment. "Gee, couldn't you have gotten a mask or something?" she asked. "Not only are you trying to use our relationship to get me to help you, but you're also trying to ruin my reputation and drag me into this with you." "Mom, everything will be fine. There are two possibilities," I said. "One, I'll give Dennis time to cool down. We'll talk, and I'll convince him to give me another chance. He loves me. My absence will hurt him until he—" I fell silent, noticing that she was curled up in a chair, laughing so hard that she was holding her stomach. "Okay," I said. "I don't love Hank, but the second scenario is, after the divorces are finalized, I'll just marry Hank. Like I said, I don't love him, but he's a millionaire, so at least he can take care of us." My mother stood up from her chair and walked over to me, placing her head on my forehead. She shook her head and then hit me so hard that I forgot the time, the date, and even where we were. I had a flashback to my teenage years. "I'll never smoke again, Mom, I promise," I said. "Who told you that loser Hank is a millionaire?" she asked. "Hank said," I answered. "Honey, I think you had a stroke," she said. "Or your ick really is lower than we thought. Hank Walker is an unemployed slacker. He only has one suit and 2 pairs of underwear. He's a dreamer. He goes around town claiming that Dennis has been following him all over the country for the last 10 years. And fired him. Have you seen his wife? If he had a millionaire or even $100, would he be married to such a woman?" My mouth dropped open. "But why?" I started. "He's a man," she said, "and a lustful fellow. His job is to take advantage of naive, gullible women. You saw who he's married to. Why wouldn't he go after someone else who is stupid enough to believe his nonsense?" "But," I started. "Honey, you need a lawyer to sort this out as soon as possible," she said. "I need to talk to Dennis," I groaned. "Honey, the whole town already knows this. Everyone in town hates you. People with cameras were here. It's already on the internet, and the video will probably go viral. If you don't act quickly, this could spread throughout the country. Lawyers are coming here who want Dennis to sue you for damage to your reputation. He's already planning to move out of state. He loved you enough to take you back after the first cheating incident. Men laugh at him and women hate you. Let him go before things get worse. The latest rumors are that Hank's wife is threatening to sue you for ruining her family and the beginnings of separation and all sorts of other things. There is even a lawyer from New York who claims that the stress of her husband's betrayal caused her to become ugly and ugly. She wants to sue you for this. Meanwhile, the whole city is treating her like some frog princess, and you're considered an evil queen bitch. Go to Dennis's lawyer, sign the damn papers. Ask him to give you a couple $1,000s and your clothes and get out of here. Get a job and get started. All over again before you end up in jail." Belinda. I ended up moving out of town after signing the divorce papers. I returned my maiden name. I'm lucky. Dennis, probably because he still loved me, was generous. I was only able to talk to him once. It was in his lawyer's office. His reaction even then gave me hope that when this was all over, we could be together. When I entered the room, Dennis smiled. Seeing me seemed to brighten his day. His lawyer nudged him in the side and his face went neutral. But I knew the love was still there. Another event happened, and I realized that I would not get anything. My own lawyer told me I'd be lucky if I left town without getting shot in the back. Dennis' lawyer offered me $5,000, my car and all my personal belongings. Dennis took him aside. At first, I thought Dennis was angry because he didn't want to give me that much. I quickly picked up a pen and was about to sign the papers before they changed their minds. "Don't sign this, Belinda," Dennis said sharply. He and the lawyer talked some more. The lawyer took the papers and changed a couple of points. He initiated the changes and showed them to the woman in the office who acted as the notary. He then brought papers to me for my initials. Then I noticed that Dennis had doubled the amount. He gave me $10,000. I quickly signed the papers and looked up to thank Dennis, but he had his head in his hands and looked like he was crying. His lawyer handed me my copies of the papers and the check, then escorted Dennis out of the room. Everyone else in the room, including my own lawyer, who did nothing, looked at me as if I had just crawled out from under a rock. I couldn't believe I had ruined my life and caused such pain to a man who had done nothing but love me with all his heart. I moved to a neighboring state and rented an apartment. It was nowhere near as good as the beautiful home I had lost. I called my mom often and found out that I had really pushed Dennis away. Once he sold our house and had to sell it for about $5,000, less than it was appraised for, he moved. The stigma of what I did spread further. According to Della and Penny, even his closest friends have left. At first, I couldn't get a job, so I started working as a waitress. It was hard work, and the tips were small. My boss, the woman who owns the diner, said it was because of my attitude. She said there were a few complaints, but I didn't have to worry because my job was safe. A few weeks after this, I noticed that she began to watch me more closely and even rubbed herself against me at every opportunity. If she were a man, I would start to worry. About 5 months later, I realized how much my situation had changed when I went to a college reunion. At first, I was angry because I was the chairman of the committee that organized the event. We planned to hold it at my home, but I was removed from this position and even forced to pay for the entrance. I became even more angry and left the event early. I ran into that little red-headed girl who tried to get Dennis away from me when we were in college. The bitch was pregnant and glowing with happiness. I don't understand how, but with the exception of pregnancy, she was even slimmer and more beautiful than in college. From what I heard, she had a great job, but she was trying to transfer to another position. Her old one required a lot of traveling, and she didn't want it anymore. She sat down at the table, and half the women in the room came to talk to her or greet her. They had to come to me. I was the main cheerleader. When we were in college, no one even knew her name. Then I noticed that 2 of Dennis' friends were sitting at the table with her. The plump one was with his wife. The plump man's wife often spoke to the red-haired one. It was obvious that they knew each other. I regretted at that moment that I hadn't spent more time with Dennis' friends. I couldn't even remember the name of that overweight guy, let alone his wife. It made me feel really stupid. We all went to college together, and these 2 fools were at my house almost every day. They were my husband's best friends, and I couldn't remember their names. I suddenly realized that this says much more about me than about them. They seemed really happy. Even my 2 best friends somehow hadn't noticed I was in the room yet. They probably expected me to show up dressed to the nines and make a grand entrance. I continued to watch the table. I thought I was more interested in whether Dennis would come to the meeting than Penny and Della. Then something strange happened. I assumed the redhead was with another friend of Dennis's. A skinny, stupid guy who never seemed to have a girlfriend. But as he sat down and started laughing, a short woman with a big butt came and sat on his lap. So if the redhead wasn't with either of those two, then who was she with? I was distracted when Penny arrived. "I didn't even know you were here," she exclaimed, hugging me. "Yes," I said. "I had to pay at the door." "Oh, it must be a mistake," she said nervously. "What's wrong with the redhead?" I asked. "Oh, you remember Stephanie, don't you?" she said. "Remember, she was a freshman when we were seniors. Remember how cute it was when she had a crush on Dennis?" "I didn't think it was cute," I said. Penny, is Dennis coming?" "Honey, Dennis is here," she said. "He's running for homecoming king. He had to go back to the hotel to get a pillow for his back." Even when she spoke, I looked past her. I saw Dennis come back into the room, and he looked like $1,000,000. He had a beautiful suit. His hair was freshly cut. He was smiling and just beaming. I was sure that he had survived the pain I caused him. Perhaps he was even here, hoping to see me, just as I was hoping to see him. I walked towards him, and she grabbed my hand. "Belinda, don't go there," she warned. "Why not?" I asked. "He's happy again. I see. Maybe we can talk now." "Belinda, as your friend, you should know that he is happy, but—" she began. I waved my hand in front of her face, cutting her off. "Damn, I've been through hell these past 5 months. It's time for me to get a little lucky." As I crossed the floor, I heard fragments of conversations. "Can't believe she's not running for queen. Who cares? She's still a beauty." My confidence grew with every conversation I heard. All this continued until I walked up to the table and saw Dennis putting a pillow on the back of that red-haired girl. My jaws dropped and I was dumbfounded. Everyone in the room could see my tonsils. Della came and stood next to me. "Are you as angry as I am?" she asked. "I came here hoping to see your ex, and he's here, but he came with Stephanie. How is that even possible? It's not even been 6 months since your divorce." "Are you sure they're together?" I asked. "Remember, in college, Dennis was always picking up strays. Maybe he just wants to show her a good time." "I wish he could show me a good time," she said. "I think he looks even better since you broke his heart. Can you believe he was asked to run for king and she said no? She said no one would want to see her fat, pregnant body on stage. Her belly is smaller than mine, and she's pregnant. I'll start the diet tomorrow." I went and sat at the bar and started drinking. From the corner of my eye, I watched as my husband showered all his attention on that red-haired bitch. I also began to feel that I had been deceived. Some time later, Della came up to me. She warned me against drinking too much. She brought with her the wife of an overweight guy. I noticed Della was asking about the redhead. "So how many months is she?" asked Della. "She's 5 months along," the other woman replied. "Will she marry her father?" asked Della. "Wouldn't you come out?" The other woman laughed. "It's funny, I've known him all this time, and I never thought Dennis wanted kids so much. I know Belinda wanted to wait and—" "Della," I said, jumping off my stool at the bar. "You're not telling me the redhead is carrying my husband's baby, are you?" "Honey, you and Dennis are practically divorced," she said. "He can do whatever he wants, with whoever he wants. I tried to warn you that he was moving on. If you hadn't made him suffer so much, you should be glad he found someone. You should see how cute they're cute together. They even have their own little names for things, like when they go out to have sex, they call it golf because—" My head exploded. All those times Dennis told me he was going golfing. He couldn't. Could he? Another thing came into focus then. The redhead was almost as many months pregnant as it had been since my divorce. I really don't believe in coincidences. Dennis should have cheated on me before we even filed for divorce. The golf thing has returned with terrible force. What really pissed me off was that Dennis only gave me $10,000. We had hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings and investments, and I gratefully and stupidly agreed to the crumbs. I realized then that my life was ruined, and I realized whose fault it was. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't Dennis' fault. All marriages have difficulties. Dennis loved me, I'm sure of it. We would have survived our crisis if it weren't for that damn Hank, who seduced me when I was vulnerable. Hank had to pay. I asked Della if she had heard anything about Hank. She told me that Hank and his wife's divorce was almost finalized. This wasn't news because the bitch tried to sue me. Her lawyer called me and said that the case would begin as soon as the divorce was finalized. I just laughed in his face because I was making next to nothing, and because it was Hank who seduced me. They won't get anything from me. Anyway, Della told me that Hank and his wife are still living in a hotel across town. I was half drunk, but fit enough to go and tell the bastard off for ruining my damn life. I got into the car and hardly started it. The parking attendant tried to tell me that I was too drunk to drive. I just closed the door and left. Okay, I drove onto the lawn and almost hit a fire hydrant, but that was because he was making me nervous. I parked in a cheap hotel parking lot without incident. I had no idea how I would find Hank's number, but I got lucky. I saw one of his children playing and followed him. I watched as the child returned to the hotel room. The door wasn't even locked. I looked out the window and didn't see any of the adults inside. I changed my mind and decided to return to the car. But before I could move, someone hit me on the back of the head. Everything went dark after that. I woke up some time later, and the policeman was shining a flashlight in my eyes and telling me not to move. I tried to get up and noticed the gun in my hand. There was a shrill scream from a woman behind me. It was familiar. There she is. There's this crazy bitch right here. It was Hank's wife pointing at me. I lost consciousness again. When I started to come to my senses, I heard conversations. Drunk as hell and mumbling. I told her she was too drunk to drive. She drove across the grass and hit a curb. Almost hit 2 people on her way out of the parking lot. Well, I heard her at the bar. She was already drunk and talking about how some guy ruined her life and he had to pay. The detective came over and just looked at me. "Why did you kill him?" he asked. "I know you had an affair. Did it start and last since you were in college, or did it just pick up again recently?" I started to stutter. "I know you got divorced because of this," he continued. "Is that what made you so angry that you killed him?" Another police officer entered the room and spoke to the detective. "You have a visitor," he said. "I'll let her in here. You're chained to the table, so you're not going anywhere." I expected to see my mother or Della or Penny. This was the last person I expected to see. She sat, tears streaming down her small, ugly face. When she sat down and looked at me, she smiled. "I saw my husband at homecoming," I said. "I was drunk and angry, but I didn't plan to kill Hank. I only wanted to tell him off for ruining my life. But when I got there, I changed my mind. I was just going to go home and try to forget about it. I planned to get back at Hank in another way. I swear to you, I never fired a gun in my life. I never planned to kill anyone." "I know that. Stupid," she said. "But sometimes things don't go the way you plan. I'm guessing someone hit you in the head, and when you came to, the bastard was dead. The medical examiner will eventually prove your innocence, but if I were you, I wouldn't say too much until then. Ask for a lawyer. Refuse to talk until they give you one. It's all your fault." She got up and left the room. She stopped in the doorway and said, "I want you to know that I forgive you. You weren't yourself, and after everything that happened, anyone would have cracked under that kind of pressure." 3 days later, the police acquitted me of murder charges. I was still in custody for the offenses I had committed. They included drunk driving, almost hitting 2 pedestrians, and damaging the lawn in front of a parking lot. I was given a large fine and time in prison. My driver's license was suspended for 6 months, but by then they knew I was being framed. During the first 3 days, while awaiting the results of the gunshot test and studying the trajectory of the bullet wounds, Hank's wife gave interviews to magazines and television. Everyone wanted to interview the grieving widow while the case was hot. This bitch has earned it. We estimate she received over $1 million in cash and then disappeared. At least I don't have to worry about a lawsuit anymore. The fingerprints on the gun other than mine were hers, and it turned out that Hank could only have been shot by someone under 5 feet tall. I heard that she is now in South America, in a country without extradition. As I sat in prison waiting to be released, my thoughts returned to how my marriage ended. I couldn't believe how easily Dennis picked up the pieces of his shattered life and moved on without me. It was almost like it was planned. "I'm trapped," shouted the easily accessible girl with whom I shared the cell. It was a provocation. They deceived me into taking money for sex. Suddenly, I realized that she was screaming exactly what happened to me. I treated Dennis like crap, and he was tired of it. So he got rid of me, allowing me to compromise myself. It was, what did the screaming bitch call it? Provocation. Unfortunately for me, provocation was only illegal when carried out by the police. Dennis. I came out of my thoughts in time to see Steph smiling at me. "I'll just go back to the furniture store and buy the exact same crib in the same color," I said. "We'll be fine. What do we call them?" "One for my mom and one for yours," she said, smiling. She extended her arms and reached for me. "My doctor said I shouldn't play golf for about a month, but after that we can start working on the boys." "What will we do when they grow up and move away?" I asked. "Sitting on our deck in front of the lake, naked, and seeing what happens," she giggled. "I never imagined I'd be as crazy about someone as I am about you," I said. "I just never saw it in my plans." "Dennis," she said, kissing me, "sometimes things just don't go the way you plan." End. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one. 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 Listening to the next one.